Hello and welcome to my Woolly PhD. My name is Liz Scarf and this is a weekly vlog about what I'm currently learning and making in my anthropology PhD all about wool. And we are at episode 23, in week 23, which is very exciting. Now you can find an overview of like the whole project in the introductory video on the channel. Otherwise, let's crack into this week. So this past week and the next few weeks, they're pretty light on in terms of lots of reading and new learning. Oh, sorry about the wobbles. As now my time is mostly devoted just to getting ready to go into the field for my first fieldwork trip. So that's super exciting. There's lots of paperwork, lots of sort of travel admin, buying gumboots and enough warm clothes for somewhere where I've never been before and somewhere colder than anywhere I've been before. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it and also going, I'm not quite sure what to take. Anyway, getting there, but that's what I'm doing a lot of at the moment and will be for the next few weeks. That being said though, I did revisit an article I read several months ago that I really liked, that I thought I would talk about today. And the article is called Elephants as Persons, Affective Apprenticeship and Fieldwork with Non-Human Informants in Nepal. The author is Piers Locke, who's an anthropologist based in New Zealand, and it's an open access article, so you can read it, find it for free. I'll put the name of it in the show notes. Now the article sits in what is variously called sort of multi-species anthropology or multi-species ethnography or human-animal relations, which is kind of funny because it implies that humans aren't animals, which is a bit silly. Locke's work focuses on the intersections between humans and elephants. And so if you like elephants, it's super fascinating work. And you might be thinking, elephants aren't sheep and they don't grow wool, so why is Liz reading or talking about elephants? It's a good question actually, but I read it because it's about multi-species anthropology, which my project might be a bit about it. I don't think it's going to be the focus, but like what happened with Peter Locke, it wasn't supposed to be the focus of his work either. So you never know what happens when you go into the field and where your attention kind of gets taken. But I am going to be kind of hanging out with sheep and spending a bit of time with sheep and being curious about their role and their participation in culture in Iceland. So it might not be totally off the cards. But anyway, what's really cool about this article is the argument that he makes for elephants to be considered research informants in their own terms, right? So informants in this context, it's one of the terms anthropologists have used to refer to the people who participate in their research. So basically, informants are people who tell them stuff. And so what's really interesting here is how Locke argues for elephants to be recognised as people who can tell us stuff that is useful anthropological data, so that they are therefore valid informants. Now historically, anthropology has certainly paid attention to the role of non-human animals in culture, but it's only fairly recently that they're positioned by some researchers as informants in their own terms rather than devices or backdrops or objects in human kind of world-making endeavours. So Locke writes about this as a form of human exceptionalism in anthropological methodologies and how this kind of hinders our capacity to understand ourselves and life more broadly. You know, he argues his case with some very moving anecdotes from his time as an apprentice mahut, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, in Nepal, where he was sort of partnered with and worked with an elephant called Sitasma Kali for about 18 months, and he originally set out to study human expertise in captive animal management, but over time he found his attention was drawn to the elephant's behaviour and the way they came to describe and demonstrate and direct sort of the nature of social relations, both human to human, human to elephant and elephant to elephant, and the nature of social relations and social ordering is really at the core of anthropological work. And one of the stories he tells is about how being Sitasma's human impacted his own human-to-human relationships. because elephants, they have preferences. They like some other elephants and they don't like other elephants, and they have like preferred grazing partners. So that means that Locke, he would spend more time with the humans attached to the elephants who were the grazing partners of his elephant, Sitasma. So and he talked about learning about these histories of animosity between Sitasma and other elephants, and how she didn't like, and she had like bad history with some other elephants, and it wasn't just her, they all kind of did, right? But that how this actually put him at risk from those other elephants. He got seriously kind of whacked with a trunk at one point from an elephant that Sitasma didn't like, had like bad history with. They didn't like each other. So as Sitasma's human, he was the enemy of this other elephant, right? So great. Elephant drama, oh my God. Anyway, whoops. So similarly, the elephants with whom Sitasma had a close relationship, they were safer. That he was seen as a friend by extension of his friendship or his relationship with Sitasma. Now, then he also reflected on how all of this impacted the human-to-human relationships he had, because he would spend more time with the humans that Sitasma, the humans that belonged to elephants who Sitasma was friends with, and less time with those that she didn't. And so this way in which her relational preferences directed, basically how all the elephants' relational preferences impact the kind of relational experiences the humans had as well, right? So they're real active participants in how the social world is constructed in that space. And yeah, anyway, it was so cool. There's some things in it, the way the elephants are used and things which at times I was just like, oh, this, I don't love this. So, if you are going to read it, and I do highly recommend it, I think it's a lovely article though. Just also be forewarned, there's also things which you might just go, oh, I don't agree with that kind of thing happening with elephants. But yeah, and if you find the academic bits a bit tedious, just skip through to the stories about the elephants, because they're really sweet. But yeah, why does this matter to my research about wool in Iceland? Elephants don't grow wool, they don't hang out in Iceland, they're not sheep. And just because Locke thinks elephants can be informants, it doesn't necessarily mean sheep can too, right? But Locke does spend a bit of time in the article articulating why elephants in particular can be informants, in particular exploring the concept of personhood. Now, debates about what defines a person, this is for another video, but one of the points he makes about it is that a very simple way of defining personhood is just to be purely subjective about it. It's whoever you consider to be a person is a person, right? So do you consider the animal a person? That makes it a person. So in Nepal, elephants are definitely considered persons, also considered divinities as well, actually. So, and I know some, maybe many, I don't really know how many, but that some Icelandic sheep farmers consider their sheep to be persons, right? They're given names, they can describe the personality of the individual sheep. They're not just kind of homogenized as in all sheep are like this or like that. They are attributed with unique logics and feelings and kinds of attachment and personality traits. So these would all kind of say that, these sheep are being perceived as persons, right? And I think the point isn't necessarily to compare sheep and elephants or to assess the intelligence of sheep as some kind of qualifying criteria for the status of informant, but to use an article like this to make me think more openly about what could I learn from sheep directly about Icelandic culture based on their behaviour and their communications and their preferences and how they kind of relate. So I'm thinking this could involve a lot of time watching sheep and hanging out with sheep, which I tend to think as someone who's never hung out with sheep, this sounds really fabulous. Possibly going to get like a really rude awakening I'm going in, very sheep naive. Yeah, so we'll see. I am enthusiastic, but maybe sheep are not what they are made out to be from my Instagram feed. If you do have any tips about sheep and hanging out with sheep, I would love to hear them. Don't terrify me though, just, some gentle wake-ups are fine. So that's this one thing I was kind of looking back at again this week in terms of reading. Making. So I finished one of those shorty socks. If you have been watching along for a while, you know the shorty sock saga. If you'd like a bit of project drama and you haven't watched, just go back a couple of videos. You'll get those. So yeah, I pulled back the ugly striped one to the heel, and so I finished the full colour one, pulled back the ugly striped one to this kind of heel bit here, and then started again just with the same colour. So yeah, I'm halfway through, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through the foot, and so I'll start decreasing soon for the toe. Super exciting thing I'm knitting, and I think I've made significant progress from last week, but I haven't checked back, and I don't put stitch markers in to keep a track because, I don't know, I'm not such a committed documenter of my knitting, although I've got to change that for the research. Look at this. It's so gorgeous. I love it so much. It's making me very happy. Not sure if I'm actually getting a really good angle with the light. Maybe, there we go. It's so pretty. I love this so much. I really have to say a big thank you to Alicia, is it Edmiston or Edmonton? Oh, I should have that right. It's her colourway her colour recipe that I have used, but this is the Faerdy vest by Gudrun Johnson. And it's a lovely colourwork knit. I'm not so, I'm not a super experienced colourwork knitter, so my attention is still a work in progress, but I've kind of hit a stride that I never have before with the two-handed knitting, so that's good. But yeah, so this is all in Jamieson's of Shetland Spindrift, and yes, I'm hoping to finish it before I go to Iceland, which will be in about a month, and I am up to about here in the first. You do all of this for the body, and then you start doing some interesting things for the arms. It's all knitted in the round, but it will stick later, and so I'll repeat it all again for the upper part of the body, but this is all sort of, so I'm nearly at the bottom of the armpits. I might not finish that tonight, but getting close. Anyway, I love it a lot, and even if it's a bit lumpy, I'm gonna still love it a lot, but I think this is gonna do some magic things in the blocking time, but also once it's all done, just kind of like wiggle it a lot, and hopefully it'll all just kind of settle really nicely in terms of the tension. Yes, so, there's the other thing, hang on. So I think I learnt to knit, how old am I now? 28 years ago. But I knitted for about, 7 months, and then I never knitted anything again until about 4 years ago. I came across Janie Crow actually on Instagram, her crocheting, and I'd never really been a fan of crocheting, but when I saw her crocheting, I was like, oh my God, I want to learn that. That was so beautiful. So I started to learn to crochet. I made a blanket, although I have not actually, I've stitched all the squares together in rows, but I haven't put all the rows together, so it's not made. But then I was like, everything I see that I want to make, it's all knitting. So I got back into knitting. Anyway, I started a cardigan at some point that, for many reasons, was really not viable in a lot of ways. So anyway, I just had left this whole back piece that I had done and put it in a bag for, what are we now, 4 years. Anyway, I frogged it back, and it's mostly these kind of navy and pale blue stripes. it's a nice New Zealand wool actually, and then this kind of mustard stuff. But I want the dark blue to make some leg warmers for my daughter, so I just frogged the whole thing and I popped it in the bath, and now it's dry and ready to turn into a big ball. And then I'm just going to snip the colours out that I don't want as I knit it. So these are my knitting goals before I head off, is to finish those socks, make the leg warmers, and finish the Faerdy vest. And then on the plane, I'm going to try and make a balaclava, maybe a headband. I think the balaclava is too ambitious for a whole plane ride, but I might get a headband done and part of a balaclava, because I think I'm going to need it for Iceland. Anyway, I also, this is what I've been making. I did make a jigsaw puzzle too, but that's a bit off topic. And I made a big decision. I've made it. I keep thinking I've almost made it. I've made it. So I'm still teetering. So I thought if I put it on the video, then I'd be super embarrassed to like go against it, right? But the decision is that I'm not going to Bendigo Sheep Show this year. Now I don't tend to suffer from like acute feelings of missing out or kind of wanting it all in my life, which I'm very grateful for. But I do feel like not going to Bendigo will feel like missing out. But I'm not going because I really need to save money for field work. Iceland's super expensive. And I know if I go to Bendigo, I'll spend like $500 to $700. I have tried to go before and set like a budget for like $200 to $300. And I just don't manage it. It's really unsatisfying amount of wool to buy. And I'm generally okay at self-discipline in many areas of my life and many contexts. But these big yarn shows, my self-discipline kicks in around the $700 mark, which is a lot of money, right? It's about the equivalent of one day's accommodation and food in Iceland, maybe two. I mean, slightly exaggerating, but it's pretty expensive. Like Australia is an expensive country to live in. Iceland's like around 30% more expensive. So I'm not going to Bendigo. I'm a bit sad about it, but I'm really super lucky to be going to Iceland doing a PhD. So, you know, I'll kind of get over myself around about it. It does make me realise though, there's not many contexts in my life where I kind of have this experience of like, oh, I want it all. I want to do all the things. But wool, it just kind of gets me somehow in a way that other things kind of don't. So, you know, if you are going, I hope you have a wonderful time. If you are undecided and if you've never been before and you're undecided, I really recommend it. Fridays apparently are very hectic. I've never been, but super hectic. Saturdays I think are a lovely day. I think Sundays things start to get a bit scrappy, but still good. But my big hot tip is dress warmer than you think you need to. It's freezing cold. I also take a thermos of something hot because I don't really do caffeine things or hot chocolate, so trying to get warm drinks didn't really work for me, so I take my own. And if you're a meat eater, the grilled barbecue meat stand, they have like chicken and lamb and something. It's amazing and it's gluten-free, so that's very exciting. I don't know what else there is to eat there because that's all I eat. Okay, that's it for this week. I will stop now. Thanks for watching, and yeah, if you've got any sheep tips, I would love to hear your sheep handling and your sheep hanging out tips. Again, don't terrify me, but you know, like, I'm obviously a little sheep naive, so very happy to get a little bit wiser before I go. Okay, I'll see you next week. Bye.